Hello and welcome to another episode of the Knock On podcast, brought to you by the good people at Zero Tackle. Dan, another weekend of Rugby League done and dusted. We're into an Origin game by the time this drops. We'll have an Origin game happening. We'll have a female Origin game happening. We had the Under-19s Origin game happen last week with some future stars. But what are the talking points this week? I feel like there's so many.
Well, there are, and we're going to start with not Origin because I'm over it. We're going to start with Damien Cook heading to the Dragons. Now, those that haven't seen in the last couple of hours, earlier this morning when we recorded this, Damien Cook was announced as heading to the St George Illawarra Dragons. What are your thoughts on the signing? Wayne Bennett, still technically the Dolphins coach, but I have a feeling he had a lot to do with this.
It was really funny. On a podcast that Cookie did at the beginning of the year, before when the rumours were announced that Wayne Bennett was coming, he said that he didn't feel Wayne Bennett liked him, and he had his favourites in Cody Walker and co. And this has been linked for a long time to return home to the Dragons. Of course, he's a St George Junior. Fell through the cracks there and ended up at the Dogs before going to South Sydney and becoming an international player. I think it's going to be really interesting on what South Sydney do with that number 9. They're either going all guns blazing for Pete Mamazella, so they're going to try and get someone out of their contract. Look, for the Dragons, it's another aging player, but he's a very, very experienced player, and he's still sharp and crafty out of dummy half. For the Rabbitohs, it makes no sense to me. Makes absolutely zero sense. What about you?
For the Dragons, I love it. I 100% agree. Look, he's an aging player. He's not a bloke that they can build the club around. But nor's Ben Hunt. This says to me that Flanagan wants a finals appearance. So he's going to go all out and try and get that at whatever expense and then build on the back of that. We saw it happen at the Sharks. We were terrible. He brought some aging players in, got us to a final. Some players go, oh, hold on, these guys can play football. Made them move across and ultimately build a premiership. Again, I'm seeing a lot of what he did at Cronulla at the team, at the Dragons. I don't get it for South, but this screens Wayne Bennett wanted to move on, or he has ideas for the money that him leaving, Damien Cook leaving, frees up. I'm still not... I know they've signed that kid from England to play halfback. I still don't know that they know what they want to do with Jack Whiten yet, because there's a fair few centres. Campbell Graham being the obvious one. He and Jack Whiten, pretty fearsome centre combination to be fair, but I don't feel like the roster's set. The only players that I feel are locked in are Cody Walker. Colin Matangi is playing a lot better now. He's back in his position that he should have been from the start. Evidently, that's been a Wayne Bennett call. I dare say Tane Milne probably won't make the cut next year, so maybe I've solved my own problem with what to do with Jack Whiten. Look, I don't get it. South are in win now mode. They're not getting any younger. All their stars are 30 whatever. Except Campbell Graham, I think it's like 28 or 26. Sorry if I'm selling you S Creek there, mate. But I don't get it. The Mamazellis, I've seen nothing from him to say that he's going to hit the ground running. This just looks like what they did with Adam Reynolds. They're moving on without a ready-made replacement. I don't think Cook's what he was 2 years ago, but he's still Damien Cook. And we saw this past weekend, he was absolutely fantastic. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know what they're doing either.
Is there a thought to bring Brandon Smith across?
He is the most anti-Wayne Bennett player that you could come across. Wayne Bennett hates players who are outspoken, that don't do as they're told, that party all weekend and go on podcasts. And we have just, if you had to make a prototypical player that did all of that, it's Brandon Smith. I can't see him ended up at the Roosters. From the Roosters to Souths.
Let's put that rumour to bed really quickly. Now, mate, I'm going to use this for my own personal agenda. There's something dropping on Zero Tackle by the time that this comes out. I'll talk about it at the end. But I believe that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was extremely hard done by to be sin-binned, because I've gone back and watched some Liam Martin tackle on Jermaine Hopgood 55 times last night for research, and it was worse than the tackle that led to a sin bin. What are your thoughts on the sin bin? Do you remember the Liam Martin tackles? 1 moment and 80-minute dominance of Queensland. Do you think Origin played a part? I just want all your thoughts on this before I go El Tropo.
I don't think either tackle was illegal. That Liam Martin tackle needs to be replayed and taught as technique. And I know it's the only good thing he did in the Origin game. That shot was chef's kiss, right? The Roger Tuivasa-Sheck tackle was incredible. Now, I had to go back and watch the game again because everyone was blowing up about it. I had to go back and watch the game, and for blink and you miss it. There was absolutely nothing doing with that tackle, and the fact that the video referee intervened and said it was dangerous, and the head of the rugby league officials has come out and said, "Yeah, we're backing that decision," is just terrible. Whoever was in the bunker, I don't know who it was in the bunker, needs to be stood down for a week. And this is the last year we can have Graham Annesley in charge of the referees. I'm sorry, he doesn't know what he's talking about. If that is a sin bin, if that is, you're going to see 5 or 6 every game. That was a beautiful tackle from Sheck.
I am so glad you said that. Now it was Casey Badger in there, the
course.
Badger lottery, and hopefully it's dropped by now and people have read it. But I said straight up he's insulting our intelligence by backing an abhorrently wrong decision. He came out and said that we're trying to ban lifting tackles. We want them out of the game. The NRL, blah, blah, blah. I went on NRL Facebook. It's got 1.3 million hits of the Liam Martin tackle. So they don't want it. They want to promote it except when it's there. So with the Liam Martin tackle, now it's been largely missed. I actually thought he was going to get sin bin on the night. He's hit Jermaine Hopgood past, horizontal, and Hopgood's fallen on his shoulder behind him. Pinpoint exactly almost to the degree of Jaden Campbell, who didn't lay down for a penalty, nor did Hopgood. One was Origin, one was not. One had a competent official in the bunker, one did not. They're the only differences. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was the fact that he, hasn't been given 6 weeks, says to me they made an error. I think Graham Annesley, I don't want to turn this, I know a joke, but I don't want to make this a bigger agenda push. Annesley and Casey Badger combined to have no idea. The tackle, I'm okay with it being a penalty because it went 1 degree past the horizontal. That's the rule. But if that's a sin bin, no, just.
Well, yeah, I think you answered in Origin because in Origin we had Ashley Klein refereeing and Adam G in the bunker. The fact that it wasn't given a penalty until she went, well, now inadvertently I didn't know it was Casey Badger. It has gone back. That's a joke, mate. And I saw the article drop about the insulting our intelligence, and I thought that was to talk to people who tune into our podcast. Evidently, it's not. It is Graham Annesley. That is like when he came out. And I was expecting him to come out and say, "Look, I can see how it was officiated, but it was actually a wrong decision, and we'll go back and do some training." To him to come out and say, "No, it's correct, and we want lifting tackles out." But as you said, there's 1.3 million hits and comments galore on the Liam Martin tackle, which was a beautiful tackle, by the way. Terrible.
Yeah, says it all. Now, sticking with Origin, I do have to say, Origin 1, the build-up, This one, there seems to be a concerted effort. Things brought up from the past, all your rumours, it feels like they're trying to make Origin matter again. Do you agree with that, Terry? Because I've seen the normally quiet Cherry Evans come out and say that, he rubbed a head or something. You had Angus Crichton, who I can't remember the last time he did anything like that, to come out and said, I should have reacted. You got Liam Martin talking absolute nonsense. You got players that are really quiet. You got Billy Slater throwing barbs at Madge and vice versa. Do you think this is a concerted effort to make this game have a little bit more feeling?
I think they killed the whole Origin aspect when they started taking it away from the 2 states. When they said we're going to stick a game in Melbourne and we're going to stick a game in Adelaide and we'll chuck a game over in Perth. I think that's when they killed it, and they're trying to bring that hype back now. Yeah, look, it wouldn't surprise me if they're doubling the media appearances. It's down in Melbourne. Like, in all honesty, if there was an AFL game on in Geelong, more people would be going to that. Let's just put that straight on the record there. I don't know what they're doing with this concept anymore. They're trying to keep it alive, but it's dying a very, very slow death. If you want to make Origin relevant again, just go back to the New South Wales host 2 games, Queensland host 2 games, and go vice versa in that category there. Stop taking it to states that don't care about rugby league. They just don't. That's all I can say about that.
I really think there's been an edict sent out this week because some of the absolute nonsense just to get people talking, like Madge Maguire going to Billy Slater, you're attacking players and you did this in your playing career. Yeah, he's hundreds upon hundreds and multiple premierships, and he's Clive Churchill medal and Australia and Queensland. He's a pretty good player. I wouldn't be attacking.
The best one was this. The best one was Gordon Tallis coming out and saying, "Who's Michael Maguire?" No one knew him, and no one was ever scared. He said, "I played multiple games against Michael Maguire, and no one even knew who he was on the field." And then Andrew Ferguson, who runs rugbyleagueproject.org, put on their 2 players, Gordon Tallis, Michael Maguire, 0 games played against each other. It's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. They've got dumb people saying stupid things about a game that they don't need to.
Pretty much, I agree with that. I agree with you. I think the Origin concept means not as much as it did. I think if this doesn't go to a decider, I think you're going to get a lot of calls for, do we really need this crap anymore? The ratings say otherwise, but outside, I don't think anyone cares, and they won't till tomorrow night. The time of recording.
I've got an idea. If this does not go to a decider, can we play a hybrid game? First half is the under-19s men. Second half, NRLW. Can we play a hybrid game? Because no one's going to care about the third game.
They're not, but sure, why not?
It'll attract eyes.
I don't care about the current one that's being played tomorrow at time of recording. So give me whatever. Play soccer. Play the police against each other. I don't care. Let's just get through Origin and get back to NRL proper, please. But look, I didn't know whether to put this because we're unashamed fans of this gentleman in that Sean Johnson. 4 weeks he's been injured, Achilles I believe, or a foot of some sort. Is that it for SJ?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't think that'll be the last time we see him in a Warriors jersey, but I think this is the last season that we do see him. I think he's got to call it quits. Look, it's tough to say. Like he was absolutely phenomenal last year. Rightly, wrongly, whoever, Kalen Ponga got the Dalian medal. I can hear either way. I thought there was a 3-way race and ended up with Kalen Ponga, but I think this is it for SJ. His body's really letting him down now, and when he was out of the team, they won some games that they shouldn't have won with some really, really depleted squads, and he's come back and they haven't looked good. They really, really haven't looked good. Like, and the cop 60 on the weekend, and he stayed out there. Like, yeah, I think they need to move in a new direction. The Fanua Blake's going. They're bringing in James Fisher-Harris. I think you need to start building the team around him. Tamari Martin looked really, really good in the 7. Chanel Harris-Tavita. You need to bring Metcalf back into the team. He's another one who needs to stay fit as well. And yeah, it's sad to say, but he's an absolute legend of the game. But yeah, this is the last we'll see of Sean Johnson. If you know what, if you said to me right now, if you said, Terry, I've gone into the future and Sean Johnson doesn't play another game, it's really, really disappointing, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm torn on this because I love Sean Johnson. I know we did have a crack at him on the way out because the way he handled himself when the Cronulla exit came about. I don't really blame him for it. There was a contract offered and pulled depending on who you believe. But whatever, I'm not going to hold it against him. Absolute legend of the game. Probably the best Kiwi to ever play the game. Certainly the biggest star.
Yeah, that's the thing. Biggest star.
Yeah, so we're talking an absolute legend of the game. I don't want to see him decline and go out with a whimper. I want to see him come back. And look, I don't think the Warriors will play finals now. If they do, they'll come in and they won't host a game. Hopefully the last game at Mount Smart Stadium is sold out and it's Sean Johnson Appreciation Night. And he hangs them up because the Sean Johnson who's come back since the injury, maybe came back too early, I don't know, just hasn't been the same bloke. And earlier this year, look, last year was an absolute wonderful season. And yeah, I had him as the outright Dalian favourite. I can hear the argument for Ponga, but I don't agree with it respectfully. I think it was Johnson and then the field. So I know why he played on. I think we got robbed of him and Metcalf because I think that's a super combination that, could build into another season. But the way Tamari Martin especially played while he was out, they just looked like a completely different team. And as soon as Johnson came in, it went out the window again, the cohesion. Maybe it's coincidence. I am sitting on the fence, but I'd be shocked if Sean Johnson plays any football after this season, as much as I hate to say that. Wish the bloke all the best for what he's done for Rugby League. And I'll tell you what, he could go into coaching, he could go into media. He could stand out the front, and I'll give him money because I love Sean Johnson. So, brilliant stuff. Hope that's not it, but if it is, that is an absolute legend career. Now, one that a couple of mates of mine in the DMs have had a lot of fun with this week, and that's our old mate Anthony Seibold, Mr. Harvard himself, I believe, or maybe that's not. I don't care. The way I'm going with this is during the last week, he said that there are no halves available with Cherry Evans at playing Origin, and I mean, Lou Brooks played a bit of half, but anyways, we won't go down that. saying there's no halves available, Terry. He's named Carl Lawton at 7. Now, Tommy Talau has played halfback on the weekend. Meanwhile, in the reserve grade, Jamie Humphries, who wore the number 7 for the Blacktown Workers, tore up. I think his 3rd or 4th game in a row. I don't know if my mates are feeding me false info. I don't care. He's a halfback, and he's better than both Talau and Carl Lawton together. Mr. Harvard has come out and said, again, there are no halves options, whilst a half option tears up in reserve grade. If you're a Manly fan, are you angry?
I think there's a 2 parts to this. There's a rumour going around that Jamie Humphries has signed for another club. And he didn't give Manly the last chance at a contract offer. So, if you believe the story, he's actually told Manly about 3 or 4 weeks ago that he will be leaving them at season's end for another opportunity elsewhere. And at that point there, it's just, well, I'm kicking stones down the street. I hate that mentality. I really, really do. And I go back to, if you say what you want about him, about whether you think he's professional or he should be in the game or he shouldn't be in the game or blah, blah, blah. But 3 weeks into his coaching career, Shane Flanagan had to deal with a bombshell that no one knew that there was a Ricky Stewart release clause in Blake Ferguson's contract. And he activated that and went and signed for the Canberra Raiders. And Flanagan looked at that. There was 8 weeks to go in the season when Blake Ferguson said, I'm not playing anymore. And Flanagan could have taken the same approach and kicked his stones and whatever. But instead he turned around and said, you're a young bloke, you've made your decision. Congratulations to you. Wish you all the best. I just don't want you to win a premiership while I'm coaching. And he didn't. And he picked him every week. And Blake Ferguson was our leading try scorer. And we watched our best prospect walk out the door to another club. Manly probably feel the same right now, but this is just pure spite. If you're not picking this guy because he's gone to another club, it's absolute pure spite. Like, imagine you throw the shoe to another one of ours. Adam Fanua Blake coming to us. Imagine the Warriors turn and said, we're not going to release you, but you're going to play every game in New South Wales Cup. James Fisher-Harris walks into Penrith and says, I need to go home next year because of family reasons, and Penrith turn around and go, cool, we'll grant you a release. But you've got to go and train at St Dom's and you're playing New South Wales Cup every week. Like, what's the point? What's the point? You're there to you're there to keep your job. You're there because Jamie Humphries has got a job for the next 10 years. You don't. And if you fail at Manly, you're probably not going to get another gig. I don't know. I don't get it.
It's a good shout. I'm with you. I don't care what he's done for next season. They need a halfback. And they were discussing the other night. They could still be playing now and they're not crossing the try line. They were awful. Now, don't get me wrong. I know they're missing players, but so are South, so are everybody at this time of year. But you got this young prospect who, it doesn't matter if he's signed elsewhere, can fill in for a game and potentially help you score points instead of... So I got into the Twitter replies in the Manly and I jumped in with them in solidarity. You won't catch that happening often. So I was like, what are you doing? Why are you putting Carl Lawton at 7? Now, everyone's like, oh, well, I think you'll find that Tommy Talau played at 7. Like that's any better. This is a centre turn winger, turn part-time, 6 or 7. I don't care what number was on their back. Luke Brooks is a career, let's call it a failure at 7. Had one good season, won a Dally M halfback of the year. Still don't know how. And then 8.5 seasons of absolute meh. So, I just think that he's hurt the club. And if that's the reason, now we don't know for a fact it is, but that's the only reason I can offer up. But to say there are no half options, he should have said, look, I don't think Humphries is ready. I'm just going to plug the gap for a week. We'll just see how we go. And everyone would have said, I don't like it, but okay. But to come out and specifically say, there's no options. I have to play a centre turn winger at 5'8" or halfback. No wonder Manly fans are blowing up, and they are blowing up deluxe. I'm not going to cry any tears for him. I found it hilarious. But my word, this guy, how he keeps getting jobs.
Is Jacob Arthur injured?
I have no idea. I would assume so.
Yeah, because he's at Manly as well. I know Humphries has been playing halfback, but they've got him listed as hooker on their website. I'm having a look at it now, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it as well. But we've gone on to the New South Wales Rugby League website to have a look at his stats. I don't know what they're doing. I think they're probably at this point in time they're probably banking on Brandon Wakeham not getting arrested. But yeah, look, it is what it is. You won't see me crying any tears for Manly. I hope they extend Anthony Seibold tomorrow.
Absolutely. Speaking of, potentially not extending. Great segue. Sitili Tupouniua, been told, see you later. Says to me Angus Crichton's going to re-sign. Linked to the Dogs, as is every player off contract. Do they need another back rower?
No. And I was when this whole story broke that Sitili Tupouniua was close to signing with the Bulldogs, I was like, that is the one team that does not need Sitili Tupouniua. I can think of 3 teams, and we support one of them, that could use Sitili Tupouniua. Yeah, look, I get it. Like the Roosters backed themselves into a real bad corner here when they signed Dave Fifita. And then they've had to come out because they said, at the same time, we with Fifita gone, we want to re-sign Crichton, Tupouniua, you're free to go elsewhere. Fifita's pulled the pin. They said, yeah, we still want to re-sign Crichton, but we're going to be men of our word, and you can go Tupouniua. They've got really good prospects coming through in that back row. That young fellow who scored on the weekends at Steele, Jake Steele, is that his name? He looks really good. They got Sua Wong, who plays there as well. Of course, you got the Butcher brothers as well. Although Egan's not that much chop. So there's not really enough spots for him. But he's going to go to the Dogs, where you're not getting ahead of Preston, and you're definitely not getting ahead of Kickout. And I don't even think you make the bench at the Dogs. Like, either stand your ground and say, you know what, boys, I'm not leaving. It's because if I go to the Dogs and play New South Wales Cup, so I might as well stay here and do it. Or find a team that actually needs you.
Yeah.
Find a team that actually use you.
There's talk that they want to convert him into a prop.
No, he's terrible.
I don't see it, but I mean, if that's the plan, okay, good on ya. But the Dogs have got all these young props coming through, and they keep signing middles, and it is dead set championship manager again. Every time a player of any note comes up, and this is a bloke who, has played for Tonga and has played in teams that have won things and stuff, but he's a back rower in a team that, doesn't,
The only thing that I think they could do with Sitili Tupouniua if they wanted to put him in the middle was play him at lock. But I think they've got plenty of them. So
they've got 15 blokes that can play lock. Like, I just don't think that the money he's on, like, don't get me wrong, this was a young kid who, was on barely anything and had his pedigree. You go, okay, we'll fit him in and we'll work it out. But the money they're going to have to stump up for this bloke, because he wouldn't be cheap at the Roosters, and he's not going to leave the Roosters for a lesser contract, and the Roosters aren't going to kick in more than like a third. So I just feel like this is championship manager over again. Now, I know we said it last year, and the Bulldogs have largely proved people wrong. But again, there's so many players that they signed to play big parts that, are bit part players. And ultimately, value and money catches up, because you got some superstars like Crichton on and Burton on multiple $1 million deals. Kick out. Good luck to him. I think he's a player of potential. I don't remember the last time he had a real good run in a row. Maybe that's why he's looking at the Bulldogs. But there are so many teams that need back rowers right now. The Bulldogs are just number one that don't. Rugby League, Terry. I'm very frustrated tonight. Must be Origin. But let's go to the last one. Let's speak about everyone's second favourite team, the West Tigers. They've named their team this weekend on the back of 2 electric wins. David Clemmer's been named on the bench, and John Bateman's been in the extended bench with talk that he will come back in. Now, these are 2 players that have been linked by name to move at the end of the year to England. Would you be bringing them back? Because I would not be changing the winning formula.
I would bring David Clemmer back because he's still aggressive, and he still runs hard, and he still defends like a demon. There is a value in adding David Clemmer to the bench when you've got a plotter like Alex Seyfarth in the side, or Alex Twal to a lesser extent. But John Bateman, no, send him back to England. Send him back to Wigan. Send him to Leeds. Send him anywhere you want. But he should be as far away from this West Tigers outfit as possible. Look, I congratulations to the Tigers as well. They're playing some really good footy. Got himself off the bottom of the competition again, and reward for that is to play the Roosters, who are in red hot form. So look, I'm not sure in terms of, we don't want to go into the game itself, but yes to Clemmer, no to Bateman.
They've won 2 games one in exceptional circumstances and the other in really good circumstances. You got all these young kids coming through. Everyone's up and firing, and you're talking about bringing two blokes that have openly been shopped. Like Shane Richardson went to England to try and offload these blokes. Now we don't know for sure because names are mentioned, and you don't know. We don't work for them, so there's no way we could know for sure. But every time there's over there, the first replies are Clemmer and Bateman have to go, and Papa Lee was the other one, and he's gone to Penrith. I would not be sacrificing. I know earlier we agreed that you can't not pick Humphreys because he signed elsewhere. But if Clemmer is not in the plans next year, the Tigers are not in win now mode. They're win in 5 years mode. So I reckon you get as much games into the young kids. Completely different situation to Manly, who still can make finals. I still rate Clemmer a lot higher than probably 90% of the comments. Bateman, I'm higher than you, definitely. If you offered me him back to Wigan, I'm taking it because he was a superstar.
Yeah, he's great in the Super League.
That's where he needs to be, but I don't think... Look, I know why he did it because that you can't ride that momentum and we're at home because they're not at home this week for too long. You need experienced players, but if I'm Benji Marshall, I'm looking to next year. I know it goes against everything I said earlier about Humphreys and Manly. Completely different world. I wouldn't be naming either of them, to be totally honest.
I'd definitely be naming... When you have a look at the forwards, I'd definitely be naming Clemmer. I'd not be naming Bateman. Not at all. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by the great people at Zero Tackle. It is your one-stop shop for everything rugby league. It's got up-to-date news, transfers, player contracts, player signings. Got some of the best independent writers in rugby league, including you, Dan. Now, you've already dropped the Graham Annesley is affecting our brains, intelligence, and integrity. What else you got for us?
Well, that's the main one. I'm checking, so I keep looking at my phone to see if it's dropped yet because I can't imagine it's going to be overly positive. But last week I wrote a 10 things I love about rugby league, which is a direct result of another person writing that rugby league sucks, and here's the 100 horrible reasons why. If you can take a chance, it was really positive. I put a lot of work into it, and I guarantee you the Badger thing that I'm going to release in the next whatever is going to go 10 times because that's the nature of the beast. But let's get some positivity about rugby league because Origin football is not my favourite, and I'm looking forward to, well, hopefully the Sharks win in this weekend, mate.
Fingers crossed.